Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. It's going up for the next, 2.5 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video streaming channels. We are on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. We are on Facebook at WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuning into the show, thanks so much for being a part of the audience and for choosing 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Both Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuis will be along a little later on. You detected, no doubt, the lack of certainty in exactly how long we will be with you on 580 Sports Talk today because, well, that's how things work when we have high school basketball. As we do tonight, another night of Tuesday night hoops here on 580 WIBW. Yours truly headed right back to North Topeka and Viking Gymnasium at Seaman High School. The Seaman Vikings and Lady Vikes host Lansing in United Kansas Conference play tonight. And we'll have the action for you, myself and the coach, Larry Latimer, on the call. We are anticipating a 5:15 to 5:30 pregame start. The girls' game to follow 15 minutes after that, and the boys' game following the girls. Doubleheader action tonight featuring the Seaman teams that are both ranked in the latest KBCA Class 5A Top 10 polls. Seaman girls down a spot to number 7. Seaman boys up 7 spots to number 2 in Class 5A after their season opening upset of previously second-ranked Piper. So we got basketball tonight, 580 Preps, Tuesday Night Hoops doubleheader, and I hope you'll hang around and enjoy some high school basketball coverage tonight here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Means my time with you is short because I've got to get up to North Topeka, but Brendan and Spencer will drive the bus, and they'll hand it off to me when we're ready. And since we only have 2.5 hours together today, it's really jam-packed. There's lots to talk about. And we're looking forward to the discussion on the program here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to talk some Chiefs. Bad result last night for the Chiefs on Monday Night Football with the Chargers defeating the Eagles in what I would describe as a mid-off between two teams that I don't think are particularly good. In fact, I am resolute in my stance that I don't think any team is particularly good. Maybe the Rams. That's the only team I'm willing to say, that team has the fewest flaws. There are a lot of flawed, a lot of mid out there in the National Football League. That was a gross game, bunch of turnovers. Jalen Hurts turned the ball over twice on one play. Disgusting, revolting. But the Chargers won. Bad result for the Chiefs. Those playoff odds I talked about yesterday, they were at 16% for the Chiefs yesterday. They are now down to 11%. Not what you want. Really needed the Chargers start tricking off some games, including this coming Sunday when they come to Arrowhead Stadium. Alas, things look even grimmer for the Chiefs. And if they miss the playoffs in a prime season of Patrick Mahomes, it is a failure. Flat out. It is a failure of a season. No matter how you arrived at that failure, it is a failure all the same. And the arrival at this failure for the Kansas City Chiefs actually dates back to March. And we'll talk about where the seeds were planted for what is looking like the first failure of the Andy Reid era and certainly of the Patrick Mahomes era in Kansas City. Also, some interesting points raised by Ben Solak of ESPN about why the Chiefs offense is so predictable. He wrote a lot about the Chiefs today. I'm not going to share the whole article with you because it doesn't need to be story time with Dan today. But if you have not read it, go read it. Really interesting stuff. Some stuff that I didn't even really wrap my head around until I saw it presented pretty simply and plainly by Solak. So we'll get to that thought in particular, why the Chiefs. We asked the question, and not a rhetorical question, but I don't know that there's any one answer to this, and I'm probably not smart enough of an X's and O's guy to land on the exact reason, the exact answer to the question. But we asked the question yesterday, why is offense so hard for the Chiefs? Why does it look so hard to move the ball for the Chiefs? And at least through the air, a possible answer to that question posed by Solak today. So we will get into that. Also, a broader NFL topic inspired by a group chat that I have with two of my very best friends from growing up, from back in high school. For a long time, there has been a high standard for quarterback play when it comes to winning the Super Bowl. The last mid quarterback or worse to win a Super Bowl was Peyton Manning in his last season with the Broncos. And even that was Peyton Manning. Even though he was terrible that year, lost his job to Brock Osweiler. In the playoffs, I think he only turned the ball over one time, and Denver made that run to the Super Bowl. So, yes, were they carried by their defense? Oh, 100%. Just like were the Seahawks, was the defense their strongest unit when they won in 2013? Sure. But still talking about a Hall of Famer under center, making things click on offense for those Broncos. I contend that this is not an era where you can have a Trent Dilfer or a Brad Johnson as your quarterback and win a championship. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are about that level to me, with teams that seem poised to make deep playoff runs because the elite quarterbacks, a lot of them are going to be at home. So is this the year that your dad's favorite old adage, defense wins championships, is going to come true in the National Football League? We'll discuss a little bit later on. Going to talk some college hoops today. Kansas State bludgeoned Mississippi Valley State, and there's not much. We're not going to do a full film breakdown of what that was, because that was a team that needed a win, taking out some frustrations on literally the worst Division I men's basketball team in America. But more than that, it was a chance for K-State to get their bearings and get their confidence back, and it seemed like last night's game really did serve that purpose. Plus, one individual decision made by a Kansas State player that I think offers a pretty clear picture of what this team might still be able to be. And they're a long way from it. They get even further away from it if they lose at Creighton on Saturday. They're a long way from where they want to be. But something to me stood out about what they still maybe could be. And we'll jump into that, too. We'll also talk some KU hoops and football with Michael Swain of Fog.net. He's our guest today, joining us, as he always does on Tuesdays, at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll get Michael's take on the return of Darren Peterson, what KU will look like moving forward with their star in the lineup. Also go into KU's decision not to go to a bowl game after the list of 5 and 7 teams that declined bowls was long enough to get to Kansas, and then they also said no. So we'll talk about that and start diving into KU football offseason as well with Michael Swain coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Plus, all the rest of your typical topics on a Tuesday. Got Random Question Tuesday. We'll do some 5A Sports Talk headlines, of course, top of the 5 o'clock hour. A lot going on in the world of sports that is worth discussing, including Utah being the first Division I university to let the devil in. They are close, reportedly, to a deal with private equity. And I have said it before, and I'll keep saying it. You let the devil in, there's no getting him out. And this is just what college sports are going to be moving forward. Once private equity has its tentacles into college athletics, they're never going away. Also, Phillip Rivers is coming out of football retirement. I still can't wrap my mind around that. Go be a family man. You have 10 children, sir. Go be a family man. We got headlines. We do what is wrong with you. All that fun stuff here on the program today. Want to hear from you? Text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. You can also utilize the live chat on our YouTube stream. We are on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. Go like and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Get us closer to our stretch goal of 900 subscribers, whereupon we will do 580 Sports Talk Idol. Do some karaoke for you on the show. Do some silly stuff, just like we did the last time we got to a stretch goal of subscribers, and Brendan and I arm wrestled each other. So who's our hero today that's going to get us a subscriber closer on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk? And as you're watching live from 3 to 6 Central Time every weekday here on the show. Hop in that live chat. Say hello, introduce yourself if you've never been in, and interact with your fellow fans of 580 Sports Talk and with your hosts as well. Say hi to Mark. Mark H is in the chat today. Vance is in early. Good to see you, Vance, as always. Joe is in. Great to see you, Joe. Look forward to hearing from more of you as we go along throughout the show on the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. Playoff odds are now 11% for the Chiefs after that Chargers win last night. I think the scenario is the Chiefs have to win out. The Chargers have to lose to Denver and either Dallas or Houston, and the Colts have to lose twice. And really, is that far-fetched? Like, Dallas and Houston are playing good football down the stretch. Could either of them beat the Chargers? Yeah, absolutely. Could they lose to Denver in Week 18? If Denver's playing for the number 1 seed, sure, that could happen. Could the Colts, who are, I want to remind you, either going to start Riley Leonard, Brett Rippon, or 44-year-old Phillip Rivers the rest of the season, could they lose 2 of their last 4 games? Yeah. Yeah, that could happen. So, like, it doesn't feel crazy, but it's a lot of dominoes that have to fall for the Chiefs to make the playoffs. So they are staring at a future that more likely than not, a lot more likely than not, includes spending January at home. And there is no other word for that than failure. That is a failure. I have never believed in the idea of a championship or bust. Like, I didn't think last year was a failure for the Chiefs. Disappointing not to win the Super Bowl, but they made the Super Bowl for a 3rd consecutive year. Standards are very high. They're higher than anybody else for any other team in the league for the Chiefs. But I've never believed in the idea of you either won the championship or you failed. I've never bought that. But if you don't make the playoffs with the best player in football under center in his prime, you failed. That's a failure. And if we're being honest about how this failure came to be, again, 1,000 reasons for failure, but no excuses. A lot of things that have piled up in front of the Chiefs this year, a lot of on-the-field stuff that is they're doing, a lot of on-the-field stuff that isn't they're doing, some off-the-field stuff that isn't they're doing. There's a lot that has had to go wrong for the Chiefs to be in this position. But as far as self-inflicted wounds go, you can go back to March. You can go back to the start of the league year and the start of the offseason. Here are the important principles when it comes to player movement, acquisition, and retention for the Chiefs back in March. The Chiefs lost from their group of contributing players, heavy contributing players from last year. Joe Thuney, who they traded to the Bears, Justin Reed, who they let sign in free agency with New Orleans, and Turk Wharton, who signed with the Panthers. Those were the 3 contributors from last year's team that did not return. The Chiefs signed Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Christian Fulton, and Jerry Tillery. Those were the players that they brought in from outside the organization in free agency, who made it all the way through to training camp, because there were some other, like, they signed Marlon Tuipulotu, but he was a practice squad guy. I'm not going to count that. Trayshawn Ankrum, the guard who was signed for like 10 days and then got cut. Like, we're narrowing the focus here to the guys who were perceived to be important. I can't even say the important guys with that list of 4 for what should be obvious reasons, but I'll elucidate. Players that returned as free agents for the Chiefs included Hollywood Brown, Nick Bolton, Kareem Hunt, Mike Pennell, eventually. That was a bit of a circuitous route to remaining with the Chiefs, but he's with the team as he was last year. Mike Caliendo was an ERFA re-signing, exclusive rights free agent. Those were the guys who came back that could have walked and the Chiefs decided to prioritize. Plus the contract extensions to George Karlaftis and the new contract for Trey Smith. And the Chiefs drafted 7 players: Josh Simmons, Ashton Gelati, Omar Norman-Lott, Jalen Royals, Noah Williams, Jeffrey Bassa, and Brashard Smith. So that's it. Those are the comings and goings for a team coming off of a 3rd straight Super Bowl appearance. 4 free agents of note. Jalen Moore who got his $15 million, ended up a backup. He's on a $15 million contract this year, and he ended up a backup. He's playing a lot more than you'd like a backup to have to play. So I don't fault the Chiefs' thought process on this one, because how were they to know how the draft was going to unfold? They couldn't afford to sit and wait for the draft. They had to go get a starting caliber option at tackle in the offseason. So I don't blame anybody for the Jalen Moore signing. I don't. But it's still $15 million in salary, who right now is playing a position that he's not good at. He's better at left tackle than he is at right tackle. He's been having to fill in at right tackle. He's not good at right tackle. But at least he plays. At least he's on the field. It's more than you could say for Elijah Mitchell. It's more than you could say for Christian Fulton. Both players brought in with the idea that they could fill some voids, that Mitchell could be an option in the backfield, that Fulton could add to the Chiefs' depth at cornerback, which took a hit via injury last year. When Fulton's been on the field, he's been bad, so he doesn't get on the field much. Elijah Mitchell's played one game. One more than you and me. Those were the free agent acquisitions for the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, I forgot Jerry Tillery, but don't you often forget Jerry Tillery? If you took the Sporkle quiz right now, name the 53-man roster of the Kansas City Chiefs, I bet you'd forget Jerry Tillery was one of them. I know I often do. So those were the incoming free agents. As far as guys who came back, I thought running it back with Kareem Hunt was fine as a short yardage option. He's one of the very best there is in the game. As an every down back, which he's had to be due to injury to Isaiah Pacheco, again, he's one of the best short yardage options in the game. The expanded responsibilities have been a bad sign. Running it back with Hollywood Brown, a little less fine. It's just not there anymore for Hollywood Brown. Chris Collinsworth was talking about him on Sunday night having 4.25 speed. He hasn't run a 4.25 in a very long time. Not a guy that adds a lot to the receiving group. A redundancy, truly. As far as the draft goes, I still think long-term this has a chance to be a pretty good draft for the Chiefs, given where they selected at the back end of every round. Josh Simmons, I think, is a long-term answer at left tackle, but he got hurt. Not the Chiefs' fault, but he got hurt. Omar Norman-Lott got hurt. Not the Chiefs' fault, but he got hurt. Norman Lott's the biggest one. When you talk about like hidden factors for why the Chiefs have fallen off this season, the Omar Norman-Lott injury might not be one that immediately comes to mind, but I think that has been very impactful because the anticipation was that Norman Lott was going to be able to provide some of the interior pass rush that the Chiefs were losing, letting Turk Wharton go in free agency. And again, that's a thought process I can understand. I do. I understand saying, look, Turk Wharton played himself into a payday, and we're just not going to be able to swing that because we're already paying an interior pass rusher $30 million a year. We're not going to be able to swing paying another one what Turk Wharton's going to make on the open market. So we've got to replace Turk Wharton. We have to go find another interior pass rusher. They landed on Omar Norman-Lott, and if you remember the beginning of training camp, there was a lot of buzz around Norman-Lott, a lot of really positive buzz. He came in and he looked ready to rock, and then he hurt his ankle. And he lost some of that development time in camp, and he lost some of that preseason development time. And when he got on the field, you could tell there was athleticism there. There were flashes, but he was a little bit behind his peers, and then he tore his ACL. So the Chiefs never really got to activate Omar Norman-Lott in the way that they were hoping, and in a way that for a time there, it looked like they really might be able to as a rookie. So that's two of your top four picks that have been hurt. Ashton Gelati actually, I thought, played a pretty good game against the Texans. He flashed. I think there's a rotational pass rushing piece there, which that's a decent outcome for a day two player. Jalen Royals has barely seen the field. There's an injury concern there. Jeffrey Bassa doesn't see the field. Brashard Smith and Noel Williams probably ought to be seeing the field a lot more than they are. But like long term, if Norman Lott and Simmons come back from their injuries, I think that could be a solid draft class. I do. I think we could look back at the class of 25 in the draft and feel like, yeah, that was a productive group. But as for the rest of the roster, This is a roster that is old, is stale, and is less talented than it has been in recent years. And that did not happen overnight. That did not happen overnight. Because here's the honest truth about what we got to see last year from the Kansas City Chiefs. Last season, at this point in the season, 13 games in, Chiefs were 12-1, 13 games in last year. And they had a point differential of plus 56. Plus 56. For reference, this year, the Denver Broncos, who are 11-2, despite the fact nobody thinks they're any good, they have a point differential of 73. Okay? So this Bronco team that we think, they keep getting away with it. They keep winning these close games. It was even more narrow for the Chiefs last year through 13 games. And a point differential of plus 56. This year, with a losing record, 6-7, 6 whole games worse in the standings, the Kansas City Chiefs point differential is plus 63. It is better than last year's team at this time. And I guess there are two ways that you can interpret that, but the way I interpret it is last year's team was fortunate more than this year's team is unfortunate. And if last year's team had a record more commiserate with its actual ability, more commiserate with its point differential, hell, the Chiefs could have finished 10-7 last year. If they'd broken even in one-score games, that would have been the record. It would have been 10-7. And if the Chiefs had gone into this past offseason off of a 10-7 year, which good enough to make the playoffs, who knows if they make a playoff run? I'd always pick the Chiefs. I was talking to my buddies last night, and I told them, right up until Travis Kelce dropped that pass into the arms of Azeez Al-Shire on Sunday night, I honestly believed the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, or at least win the AFC. I did. They were still my pick to win the AFC right up until that happened. Like, that's how highly I still think of Patrick Mahomes. That's how much I think you need the great quarterback to win in January. We'll expand on that discussion later. But if last year's Chiefs, coming off of back-to-back championships and taking aim at history, had finished 9-8, 10-7, which again, their point differential would have suggested, there would have been wholesale roster changes. But instead, I think the way that year went, the 15 wins, the conference championship, the Super Bowl berth, I think that put blinders on the Chiefs front office and Brett Veach. And they did not do enough to address this team's deficiencies. It wasn't that they didn't try. There were some efforts that fell short through no fault of their own. Injuries to Simmons and Norman Lott have hurt this team in the trenches. But to leave this team as deficient as it is at the skill positions in particular, and counting on Mahomes to be able to lift up a group of position talent that is inferior one more time, that has proven to be the wrong move. It has proven to be the wrong move because when you do not have a talent advantage, your margin for error shrinks dramatically. And the way the Chiefs overcame that last year was they just didn't make any mistakes. Well, this Chiefs team makes a few more mistakes. And they've all been costly, and they're probably going to keep them at home in January. But if you want to talk about where this failure began, go back to Elijah Mitchell as the only new veteran running back into the worst running back room in the league. Go back to Christian Fulton, who's making a paycheck to watch the games from a better seat than you and I get. Go back to Jerry Tillery as a like for Turk Wharton. That was never going to work. Go back to looking at what Hollywood Brown and Kareem Hunt gave the team last year and deciding, yeah, we're good with more of the same there. All of these failures for the Chiefs, this broad failure that they are headed towards, it all starts back in March. Brett Veach, like every other member of this organization, has a lot of championship equity. When you have championship equity, when you have a bad year, a bad draft, a bad free agency, a bad game, a bad season, you have championship equity, you earn the opportunity to get it right next time. So this is not a fire blank segment. But obviously, the Chiefs would like and could use a do-over on the start of the league year because they did not do enough to address a roster that was decaying. We'll take a timeout. We'll get some of your thoughts from the text line, 785-272-9429, and from the live chat on YouTube. Also, one way that maybe has slipped your notice that the Chiefs offense has become incredibly predictable. Plus, later on in the show, we got Michael Swain, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour to talk KU. We're going to talk a little K-State hoops. We're going to do What Is Wrong With You. We're off early for high school hoops, so we're jam-packed into about 2.5 hours. Glad you're along for the ride here on 580 Sports Talk. 3:36 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting cranked up on this Tuesday. So glad you're with us. A text from the 785 on the text line. You can text the program, 785-272-9429. Asks, could you argue that the Chiefs' decline began in 2023, that they just got hot in the postseason and Mahomes carried them to a second straight title? Mahomes' greatness might have prolonged the inevitable. I certainly think that last point is true, but I think it more pertains to last season. You go back to 2023, obviously, that was a team, that was the year that the talent on offense started to really slip. And the offensive abilities of the Chiefs were noticeably decaying outside of Mahomes. But the 2023 defense was awesome. And I think it took until the very end of the year in the playoffs for the Chiefs to lean into the identity of all we got to do is just quit making mistakes because our defense is a bunch of ass kickers. That was the L'Jarius Sneed, second year All-Pro Trent McDuffie, in Spags we trust defense. That was probably the best iteration of defense that the Chiefs have had while Mahomes was the quarterback. And the talent level there has slipped. They lost Sneed, and while that was a good football decision to let Sneed walk, to trade Sneed after that season and not extend him because he's been a non-factor ever since, they never replaced that skill set on this defense. And they've gotten good play from Brian Cook, but the safety play as a whole has slipped this year with the departure of Justin Reed. And saying they've gotten good play from Cook is underselling Brian Cook. He's been terrific. Obviously, the pass rush the last two seasons has slipped dramatically. They had 50-plus sacks back-to-back years and 39 last year, and they just had 3 sacks, so I think they're, up to 26 now with 4 games remaining. So I think that was maybe 2023 was definitely a warning sign for the offense. It was a red flag for the offense. But for the team as a whole, they probably felt like, well, okay, we got a couple of years to rebuild the talent level on offense while this defense kicks some tail and we end up in about the same space. But the defensive abilities and the defensive personnel have gotten a little older, a little slower, and has started to decline. And now the offense, really, this is a 2-3 year problem for the offense. It really started to show in 2024. And part of the reason, and again, thanks for the text from 785, part of the reason that the Chiefs have struggled on offense to the extent that they have. And again, you go look at some of the raw stats, you even go look at some of the advanced stats, they'll tell you the Chiefs aren't struggling on offense. Chiefs have a top 10 offense in the league. That is all Mahomes. I'm telling you right now. Because when defenses lock in the fourth quarter and the third quarter of games, close games, the games the Chiefs are losing relentlessly this year, all these close one-score games, the Chiefs can't do anything against good defenses because they are predictable. And something that, sometimes something's right in front of your face, but you don't notice it until somebody points to it and says, hey, look at this. This is what you're looking for. And you go, oh, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Ben Solak of ESPN has a weekly column that goes up on Tuesdays. And he spends the beginning of his column today. And if you're watching on YouTube over at 580 Sports Talk, I'll throw a link into the live chat. But if you go to the NFL front page, ESPN.com, you'll find Ben Solak's article today talking about how he would fix the Chiefs offense. But the thing that he points out, and I won't give you necessarily a big spoiler on the article because I think you should read it. I think you should click on good work, especially if that good work is provided to you at no charge, which is the case at ESPN.com. But this was the thing that Solak pointed out that was like a forehead slapper for me. Quote from the article: the Chiefs do not have receivers or tight ends who can block well in space. Even future Hall of Famer Travis Kelce has always struggled in this particular part of the game. To get to their screen and RPO game, the Chiefs have to play Juju Smith-Schuster and Noah Gray, who do not create stress as actual receivers. Now, they especially don't when they drop passes like Noah Gray did on Sunday. The Chiefs' pass catchers are accordingly siloed. There are quick, creative players they'd like to get the ball to fast, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and bigger players they need to put on the field to block for those yak threats, Smith-Schuster and Gray. Again, this makes them predictable. We talk all the time. Whatever happened to Andy Reid's screen game? Whatever happened to the vaunted screen game of the Kansas City Chiefs, of Andy Reid? Andy Reid, that was one of the things that was his stock in trade. Creative use of the screen game, the long handoff, getting the ball to people in space. Well, if defenses know it's coming based on who's on the field, no wonder those plays don't work as well. If having Juju and Noah Gray on the field is a tip-off that, okay, they're doing something to try and get somebody in space because these guys aren't receiving threats. We're not going to worry about them in the receiving game. They're probably out there to block. And it's true. Like, Juju Smith-Schuster is a very good blocker, which when he was also a threat down the field in the receiving game, less of a problem. But he's not that anymore. So it is. This is a tell. The Chiefs have to have certain personnel on the field. Certain guys have to be on the field. Like, you're not going to put Tyquan Thornton on the field and run a screen unless it's a screen to Tyquan Thornton. You're not going to have Tyquan Thornton trying to block the edge on a jet sweep, or Xavier Worthy, or Rashee Rice. So that was one of those things that I didn't think about until it was kind of spelled out, but it's true. You go back and you watch some of the plays that the Chiefs run, some of those screens that don't seem to be working, that defenses don't seem to respect, or that defenses seem to be anticipating. They're not doing it because, oh, the league's got Andy Reid figured out. It's just, 83 and 9 are on the field. This is probably a screen. 83, 9, and 1 are on the field, and one is in motion in the direction of one of them. He's probably getting the ball in the flat. Super predictable stuff. It really is just a predictability on offense right now. And if the defense sniffs it out, it's like being a pitcher with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It doesn't mean anything if batter knows it's coming and can sit on it, knows he's getting fastball or knows he's getting slider and can just sit on it and react accordingly. And that's where the Chiefs offense finds itself a lot of the time. Go read the article, Ben Solak at ESPN. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, let's pivot to some college basketball. Kansas State may have gotten their swagger back last night against the worst team in America. We'll discuss that. And one thing in particular that I think reveals the character in a positive way of these Wildcats, particularly relative to the past two seasons. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. 348 on 580 Sports Talk. There are some return beds I hate talking over. And the My Own Summer riff by Deftones, definitely one of those. Text from the text from the 913 on our text line. 785-272-9429 is our text line number. Text says that third place schedule for the Chiefs is going to be nice next year. Look, this is the year I think schedule has mattered the most because there are so many teams that are just garbage. 10 teams in the NFL have 4 wins or fewer, and none of them are remotely competitive. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Matt Verderam about how many teams in this league are just totally and utterly non-competitive. The teams with 4 wins or fewer, by the way, in the AFC, the Jets, the Bengals, the Browns, the Titans, the Raiders, and in the NFC, it's Washington, the Giants, and the Saints, and the Cardinals. The Chiefs have played 3 games against that group of teams with 2 more left to play. They played 3 of those teams. They beat the Giants, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Commanders. For the record, those are the 3 teams this year they've held to fewer than 10 points. So they are the most lopsided wins of the season for the Chiefs. Those 3 teams. You know how many games the Broncos have played against the bottom 10 in the NFL? 7. Titans, Bengals, Jets, Giants, Raiders, Commanders, Raiders. 7 games against the dreck of the league. It will not stun you at all to hear that the Broncos are 7-0 in those games. The Patriots, your number 1 seed right now, the Patriots, they have played 6 of those games with 1 more still to go because they got the Jets 1 more time. But they've played the Raiders, who they lost to in week 1. God, that was a long time ago. But they played the Raiders, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bengals, and the Giants. So my mistake. They've actually played 7 of those games already. They still got 1 more to go. They're 6-1 in those games. So, yeah, who you play has definitely mattered this year. And that Chiefs first place schedule didn't do them any favors relative to their competition. But, hey, schedule is schedule. You got to be who you play. Just like the schedule is the schedule for Kansas State basketball. You play the worst team in America, you got to beat them. And they played the worst team in America last night, Mississippi Valley State. They are still the worst team in America per Ken Palm because they lost by 59 points last night. K-State won 108-49. And I said on yesterday's show, this is probably the best possible time to play this game for Kansas State. Coming off of 4 straight losses, the offense is in a funk. Your best player is in a funk. You got to play a game where you see the ball go in. And the ball went in a lot. Like 58% of the time it went in. PJ Haggerty knocked down 5 threes. He was 11 of 14 shooting. He was back in an offensive rhythm. You could tell it elevated him. His shoulders were a little higher. They weren't sagging at the end of that game. He got some confidence back. David Castillo gets some confidence back. Abdi Bashir hit 5 threes. That'll help him a lot. The other thing, too, that I think is positive from last night's game, because they were always going to win that game. They're always going to win it by a lot. But they did not let their ease of scoring the basketball affect their defensive effort. You know, that game against Cal earlier, and Cal's they're probably about the same weight class as K-State right now. That's not a bad team. In that game, K-State, it was just so easy for them to score on offense that they shut down on the defensive side. And Cal made some tough shots and ended up making that game really close at the end. That didn't happen against Mississippi Valley State, a team, by the way, that scored 84 points playing against Texas A&M. Their defensive effort didn't wane, and they were rewarded by allowing just 49 points. So they approached that game with a requisite level of seriousness to me that I needed to see to feel better about their chances to go on the road and beat Creighton on Saturday. A Creighton team, by the way, who isn't very good. They're 5-4. It's not as good a Creighton team as in recent years. David Castillo came off the bench last night. Jerome Tang after the game said that was the sophomore's idea, was to come off the bench so that K-State could start with a little bigger lineup and have some bench punch. And David Castillo was really good in that role last night. But I think that says something about his character How many 5-star sophomores are going to say, Coach, I think we're a better team if you bring me off the bench? How many kids are going to do that? How many 3-star sophomores are going to say that? Never mind 5 stars. So it says something about him, and it says something about the character of the entire team. 2 years ago, when K-State missed the tournament after the Elite Eight year, Jerome Tang's second season, that team didn't have enough talent. They had enough good players. Last year, they had a lot of good individual talents, but they had no team concept whatsoever. This team is closer to that equilibrium. They have more talent than 2 years ago. They have a much better esprit de corps than last year's team. Can they meld them both together in time for Big 12 play? Can they meld them together in time to go win in a tough environment on Saturday? If they win that game, all of a sudden, you start to feel a little bit better about them moving forward. But they needed that performance. They needed to see the ball go in the basket last night. So that was a good time to play that game. We'll take a break. We'll come back, wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Winding down this 3 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, Michael Swain of Fog.net will join us for Jayhawk Weekly. We have Michael's perspective on KU's victory in the border war on Sunday. A look ahead to their visit to Raleigh to take on North Carolina State this coming Saturday, and what the near and long-term future looks like for the team while Darren Peterson is back on the floor, how they can get better playing with their best player on the team. Also, some early insight into KU football's offseason as well with Michael. Look forward to that. Also going to talk about the idea that maybe this year your old favorite uncle is right and that defense wins championships in the National Football League, because it sure doesn't feel like elite quarterback play is winning regular season games or going to the playoffs this year. We'll get into that, plus what is wrong with you. High school basketball, again, Seaman versus Lansing at 5:30 tonight here on WIBW. So come on back with us for more sports talk after the news. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Glad you're along for the ride here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Like and subscribe, folks. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis and Brendan Dworzinski will be in here in just a little while. I will be out in just a little while. I'm got to get up to North Topeka for some high school hoops. Tuesday night hoops, to be precise, here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. More United Kansas Conference action from Seaman High School as the Vikings and Lady Vikes play host to Lansing. I'll have the call. The coach, Larry Latimer, will be alongside. And we'll bring you pregame coverage starting at approximately 5:30, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later. Depends on the JV game, always does. So we will have that pregame coverage somewhere in the 5 o'clock hour. So Brendan and Spencer will be around running through the headlines, talk about the big sports news of the day. Phillip Rivers is coming back to play football. Listen, I said earlier, and by earlier, I don't mean earlier today. I mean earlier as in a few weeks back, when Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers started an NFL game against each other, when they had the unction between those two, the Senior Bowl, whatever it is you wanted to call it. I appreciated that happening because I am of the age now, 39 years old, turn 40 next year. I can hardly believe it. I'm 39 years old. Not a lot of pro athletes out there older than me. Not a lot of folks still doing it who are older than I am. It's been a long time since I made myself create a character on a sports video game, right? Like not creating myself on MLB The Show. I'll give you a fake name. I'll make my 20-year-old future star. I don't know. I'll name him one of those ridiculous baseball stars names from the NES, Bobson Dugnut or Sleeve McDykel. That's what we'll do instead. You can't be creating me. I'm in my 30s. The dream is over. But I always appreciate athletes that are older than I am. I like watching the guys out. Mercedes Lewis back in the league, thank goodness. The Avalanche have Brett Burns this year. He's old as hell for an athlete. And the quarterback's doing it. You know, Flacco and Rodgers. Phillip Rivers is 44. He hasn't played since the COVID year. Brendan shared this with me earlier. Maybe you saw this perusing social media earlier today. Phillip Rivers started a college football game in the Bill Clinton administration against Chris Weinke. That's a thing that happened. How long Phillip Rivers has been doing this at a level where we could watch him on television. And now he's back in the practice squad of the Indianapolis Colts. And, man, just hit sim to end if you're the Colts. Just sim to end of season. Try it again next year. Get Daniel Jones healthy and see what happens. Don't lower yourself to running a 44-year-old. Man, you know what's going to happen? Phillip Rivers is going to get into the film room. All right, you want me to play? I can do it. Still got a little life left in this old arm. Just because I got 10 kids doesn't mean I'm physically spent. I got a little life left in the old soup bone. Let's see what we got. We're playing the Houston Texans. All right, let's dive into this Texas defense on film. Let's see what they're working with. Who's that Will Anderson character? Does he play every game? He playing on Sunday? Those guys. Who's Kamari Lassiter? Did I play against his dad? Did I play with his dad? I don't like this. Excuse me. I need to call my wife. We need to have a family meeting. That's what's going to happen. If they try to run 44-year-old Phillip Rivers out there against a damn Houston Texans defense. Good luck. Mark H. points it out in the YouTube comments, desperate teams do desperate things. This is beyond desperate, though. I don't know what level of desperate it is to call a guy who's 44 years old and hasn't played in the league since the COVID season. That's a level of desperation that I personally hope in my life I never reach. But all the best to the Colts. So the gang will get to that in headlines. We've still got Michael Swain of Fog.net joining the show today for Jayhawk Weekly. He'll check in with us at the bottom of this hour. Lots of Jayhawk news and happenings to discuss, including the return of Darren Peterson in the border war blowout win over Mizzou on Sunday. We'll rehash that with Michael. We've also got 2 new stories on what is wrong with you coming up as well. But we begin this hour with a thought on the NFL as we speed towards the postseason. I asked Matt Verderam, our NFL insider, on yesterday's show. We're now 14 weeks complete in the NFL season. Everybody's got 4 games left to play. There are 4 teams right here and now that have double-digit wins. And in any other year, you'd feel like, okay, yeah, you'd feel pretty comfortable calling those the best teams in the NFL. Those 4 teams are the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC, and the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots in the AFC. Put another way, the 4 double-digit win teams in the NFL are quarterbacked by Drake May, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, and Matthew Stafford. That's a motley crew, right? Like, one of those names just doesn't belong in there. Matthew Stafford has the ring, right? He might even win the MVP this year. But that's not a list of quarterbacks that you immediately think about when you think about the Super Bowl favorites, presumptive Super Bowl favorites. So I asked Matt Verderam, if you were looking at winning the Super Bowl, like who you're taking to win the Super Bowl, you could have those 4 teams like a lunch bet. You could take those 4 10-win teams, or you could take the field. What are you taking? And Matt said he'd take the 10-win teams because that's how strongly he believes right now that the Rams are the class of the league. And when they're on their day, like they were against Arizona, which should be noted is terrible, when they're on their day, they look unstoppable on offense. Stafford's slinging it. They're lethal in the red zone. Puka Nakua's putting up another ridiculous year. And defensively, they get after the quarterback. They have the mix of top-tier quarterback play and high-level elite talent elsewhere that typically you find hoisting the Lombardi Trophy in February. But, like, what are the other teams that meet that criteria? You're looking at an AFC field that may not include 3 of the best quarterbacks in the conference, with Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs only with an 11% chance of making the playoffs. Joe Burrow's Bengals all but eliminated, even though he's been awesome since he returned from injury. And Lamar Jackson, who's had a down year due in large part to injury. He and the Ravens could still sneak it out in the AFC North, I suppose, but the vibes and the recent run of form suggest that's a team that'll be on the couch in January. When we think about who's going to win the Super Bowl, those were popular picks going into this season because, again, you trust the quarterbacks. Maybe not so much Cincinnati, but you get the idea. Generally speaking, and I hold this to be true more often than not, and will trust this line of thinking more often than not when it comes to making prognostications. I will trust the quarterback I know that can go win me the game over the quarterback who is credited with not losing the game. Give me the quarterback and go take the game by the throat rather than the quarterback you're just hoping doesn't screw it up. And that has been the standard for most of the last 20 years in the NFL, right? Like you have the history of championship winning quarterbacks going back to, let's call it the start of the Tom Brady era, for lack of a better way to put it, like Brady's first championship and going from there. Because before that, you had, and it was a different game. It was a different league. It was a different game. You could overwhelm with your defense, and it didn't matter that Trent Dilfer was the quarterback of the 2000 Ravens or that Brad Johnson was the quarterback of the 2002 Buccaneers. And you could win with those guys because they wouldn't screw it up. That's the exception a lot more than the rule. And even if you want to say, well, early in his career, Tom Brady wasn't capital T Tom, capital B Brady, and that first season was more about him not screwing things up, I think you can give him a little credit for what he became, that he was capable of playing at that level. And we would see that over time. But The other teams that have won championships without maybe that top of the charts quarterback play, you could say the Giants and their 2 titles, 07 and 11. Like, those were the best of Eli Manning's seasons, and he was great in the playoffs. But, like, Eli Manning never entered that conversation of the game's very best quarterbacks. Joe Flacco never really entered that conversation. He blacked out in that 2012 Ravens playoff run. He was unreal good. That's as good a stretch of quarterback play in the playoffs that you'll ever see. Joe Flacco in 2012. And Peyton Manning, the desiccated husk of Peyton Manning, did get dragged over the line by the no-fly zone, the Bronco defense in 2015. Those are the exceptions. And particularly in the last 7 postseasons, the standard for quarterback play when it comes to winning a Super Bowl is either be Patrick Mahomes, be good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes, or be good enough not to screw up too badly while your defense kills Patrick Mahomes with hammers because he's behind a sieve of an offensive line in the Super Bowl. I'm mostly talking about Jalen Hurts in that category because Hurts wasn't really good in last year's Super Bowl. And right now, Jalen Hurts is playing very poorly and might be the reason that Philadelphia's stay in the postseason is short. They're going to win that division, but they don't look like a Super Bowl favorite. They've got the elite talent. I was just saying about high-level quarterback play, elite talent. That's how you win. That's how you win championship. Well, right now, the Eagles do not have high-level quarterback play. And I'm normally more bullish on Jalen Hurts than most people. But what we're seeing right now from him, it's not real good. It's not real good. I don't think he's being put in a great position by his offensive coordinator, but it's not good football right now from Hurts. But widen the scope here to the quarterbacks who would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. In the AFC, that'd be Drake May, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud, and Justin Herbert. In the NFC, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. Yeah, the Tampa Bay still leading on the tiebreaker over Carolina, even though they have the same record in the NFC South. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, and Caleb Williams. And in that group, there is only, to me, one quarterback who is the kind of force multiplier that Patrick Mahomes has proven to be, and that's Josh Allen. Stafford's got a ring, obviously. He's got that level of ability. Aaron Rodgers has a ring, but we're obviously talking about a very different player at this stage in Aaron Rodgers' career. Outside of that, are you looking at any of those other quarterbacks and saying, I'm going to win 3 straight in January? I might have to play in the cold. I might have to play in elite defense, but I'm getting on this guy's back. I'm going to have to play on the road, but I'm getting on this guy's back, and he's going to win us 3 or 4 games. Mahomes is that kind of player. Allen is that kind of player. Bo Nix, that kind of quarterback? You don't need to answer that. We all know it's no. Trevor Lawrence, that kind of quarterback? C.J. Stroud? Drake May? Like, May's the one guy in the AFC who you look at and say, oh, if there's a coming out postseason party for one of these quarterbacks where they level up and introduce themselves as unquestionably an elite quarterback in this league, it's May. I don't think Stroud's got that level behind the offensive line he's currently playing behind. Houston can't block. I don't think they can score. I think their defense might be the very best in the league, but they got gift-wrapped 10 points by the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Otherwise, they weren't going to score again. They couldn't move the ball for an entire... They went backwards for a quarter. Negative 2 yards in the third quarter on Sunday Night Football. And you're telling me C.J. Stroud is all of a sudden going to find more time in the pocket? That's not happening. Herbert, the Chargers, we kind of know who they are, right? Over in the NFC, Jordan Love might be the one answer to that question. Jordan Love might be the one guy who maybe resides for now on the periphery of that elite discussion, and he's put up some advanced numbers that put him firmly in that conversation. There are times when Love goes a bit bozo mode, but when he's good, he's great. And he's already won a big playoff game on the road. If you recall, they went to Dallas and stomped out the Cowboys that one year. He might be the quarterback. Him and Drake May are probably the two guys. I don't think Caleb Williams is quite there yet. I think his development is a little bit behind. And I just don't think Chicago has enough elite talent. But the Packers and Jordan Love could be that team that levels up. But if that doesn't happen, we could be looking at a bit of a throwback scenario that will please your uncle, make your dad happy, who loves that old cliche about defense winning championships. That's the only hope for some of these teams, right? Like Seattle's defense rules. I think this is the second best defense in the NFL. I think it's the best in the NFC. I think it goes Houston, Seattle, and maybe Denver as your top three defenses. Seattle's defense is a wrecking machine. Sam Darnold is their quarterback. And it's why all year long, I am a fan of that football team, guys. And I can't get excited about them. I can't get enthusiastic about their January chances because you don't win Super Bowls with Sam Darnold's. And that's not like just a shot at Darnold. That's the shot at the kind of quarterback we're talking about, where every game you're just hoping that guy doesn't screw it up. Just hope he doesn't mess it up. That's the Bo Nix class. That's the Trevor Lawrence class. That's the Baker Mayfield class of quarterback. Just hope they don't screw it up too bad. Well, playing the playoffs, the lights get bright. Things get screwed up. So I'm of the belief that it's still going to be elite quarterback play that gets a team over the line and wins Super Bowl 60. Whether that's an established elite talent like Josh Allen or Matthew Stafford, or a young quarterback like Drake May or Jordan Love taking that next step into that upper echelon. But I will take those four quarterbacks. I will take them, and you can have the field. You can have Houston's defense. You can have Seattle's defense. You can have Denver's defense. They're the three best defenses. Houston can't block and they can't score. Denver has Bo Nix and they can't score. Seattle's going to screw it up because Sam Darnold is always going to screw it up. I will take the high-end quarterback ability, and you can have the rest. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to come back with a round of What is Wrong with You up next here on the program. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk, and I brought friends. Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuy are here. Hi, guys.
What's up?
What up?
How you guys doing?
Surviving.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Scratching and surviving.
Hi.
Hanging in a jawline.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Ain't we lucky we got them? I'm
You can keep going as long as you want.
I'm trusting the audience to
That
fill
was
in the
a
blanks.
free preview of what you'll get when you get us to 900 subscribers.
Yeah, that kind of those vocal stylings.
Maybe we're going to lose some subs now.
I hope not. We're 21 away. Get us closer to 900. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk. All right, guys. We got What Is Wrong With You. Our current weekly champion, the meth deposit, the guy who left a baggie of meth in the pneumatic tube when he was making a bank transaction at a drive-up teller. Just accidentally. Or maybe he intended it as a treat. We're not sure. Either way, you can't do it. And probable cause to search his house revealed there was a lot more where that came from. So that is our current champion. I will go first today. We're going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the Tulsa police arrested a man accused of robbing a South Tulsa liquor store with an antique gun on Friday night. If you're watching the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk, we're going to throw up a shot of the gun. Officers responded to the armed robbery at Primo's Wine and Spirits near East 91st Street and South Yale Avenue around 8:45 p.m. The store reported that a man wearing a red hoodie and pajama pants entered and tried to make a purchase, but was denied because he did not have his ID. The man returned a few minutes later and pulled out what employees described as an old-timey musket. The musket in question now being placed on our YouTube channel. Listen, somebody pointed one of those in my face. I'd bust out laughing. I'd be like, what are you, Yosemite Sam?
Yeah, old like Cockeye Jones is coming after you with one of these.
Is this an exhibit at Disney World for Pirates of the Caribbean?
Where did you time travel from? If you were time traveling to kill Hitler, you missed your shot. You're a few decades ahead. You're a few decades too late.
This thing's got to take like a full minute and a half to reload.
Rusty as hell too, man. The only thing rustier is Staub. The police say the gun is likely from the mid-1800s and is a single-shot percussion Derringer. So for those of you who are gun aficionados, maybe that paints a picture in your head of what it is we're looking at here. The police responded to the quick trip after it was reported that the suspect for the armed robbery was seen in the shopping center north of the store. Police and officers searched the area and caught the suspect, 24-year-old Dylan Redfern. He was arrested for first-degree robbery. Honest to God, I just laugh. I mean, it'd be unnerving, as I think anybody would be unnerved to have a gun in their face. But once I got over the shock and I'm staring down the barrel of Yosemite Sam's gun, like, what kind of Red Dead Redemption-ass gun did you bring to try and rob me, sir?
Like, I'd be amazed if it worked, honestly.
Yeah. It looked like it got one of those poles in it that comes out and says bang.
If I'm this gentleman, Dylan Redfern, our alleged suspect here, my defense would be armed robbery. Doesn't even work. Yeah. What was the former NFL player, Rashay Caldwell, who unfortunately did pass away a couple years ago? He had hit some hard times after his NFL career, including being arrested for making a large purchase of drugs. He got off. I'm not kidding. You can find this story online. He got off because the drugs were useless. Like, he just totally got duped. And the court essentially determined, you're so stupid. You bought bad drugs. That's not a crime. You're just an idiot. And he got off. That would be my defense if I was Dylan Redfern here. Like, gun doesn't work. Sorry.
Vance in the YouTube comments says Elmer Fudd goes rogue. Yeah, man, it's an old cartoon gun. You try to rob me with a cartoon gun. Have some more respect for me than that.
Hand over those greenbacks, you see? Yeah.
What, are you working for Al Capone? Get out of my face.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's great.
All right, your story, Spencer.
Yeah, follow me here. 'Twas 3 weeks before Christmas, and in the prison yard, a drone-dropped package was found by a guard with steak, weed, and crab legs and cigarettes for days. And to season it all, a tin of Old Bay. Yes, the illicit meal was dropped into Lee Correctional Institution prison yard by a drone, the South Carolina Department of Corrections said on X with the hashtag Contraband Christmas. A photo from the Bishopville, South Carolina prison showed a raw steak still in the grocery store packaging, crab legs, and Old Bay with a side plastic baggie of marijuana and a couple of cartons of cigarettes. The drone was also seized Sunday morning, authorities said. Prison officials said they are investigating. No one's been arrested yet, but obviously they were bringing contraband into a prison. Also, in South Carolina, just flying a drone near a prison is a misdemeanor crime that carries up to 30 days in prison. Dropping contraband into a prison is a felony that can lend you to at least up to 10 years in prison.
So, like, this is very thoughtful.
Yeah,
I bet if you were doing hard time, a steak and some crab legs with some Old Bay would go crazy. Be the best meal you ever
crazy,
had.
and I'm not even doing hard time.
But at the same time, how are you supposed to cook it first and foremost?
Yeah.
Like, what was the plan? We got this stuff. Now we got to get it back into our cell. Yeah, how you doing that? You're not gonna boof some crab legs, man. That's not a good option.
All right, this is gonna be a controversial take. The older I get, the more I can understand how hard it would be to, just live in a cage. And I get it. Like, you did a crime. That's bad. You need to face some sort of punishment for that. Let the man eat his crab legs with Old Bay and just make him go work a couple extra hours in the yard afterward. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like, take the weed, take the cigs.
Yeah, no weed. Don't let him have a smoke. What's he going to do? Shoot, you give him one, it's going to be worse anyway. He's going to be craving them.
That's true.
And that's going to be more trouble than it's worth anyway.
Yeah, you're definitely too soft to run a prison.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Man, what a
Make
waste.
him share.
What a waste of crab legs.
Make him eat the dinkiest crab leg, and the warden's going to have some. Just come on.
The security guards ate good that night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of them did. There's not enough steak to go around. Crab legs, they might have been shared. There might have been a bit of a feast. All right, who wins today?
You like crab legs?
Yeah.
I'm not really into crab, honestly.
Was
Plus
it-
the work. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you do have to work hard, but it's worth it. If they're seasoned right, I do like crab.
Was it crab legs that Jameis stole?
Yes, correct.
Oh, yes.
He posted a funny video about that recently.
Yeah, he's a little too self-aware,
Yeah.
Jameis Winston. Who wins today?
Oh, I'm going with John DeFranco,
Yeah.
our member of the Chicago outfit, robbing a bank down in Tulsa.
Yosemite Sam. All right.
Big Jim Colissimo down there.
Does that be leaving your meth in the pneumatic tube at the bank?
No.
Wow.
Dude, that's so bad. I used to love those tubes. I used to always, ask my mom when we go to the bank when I was a kid, oh, can I climb in the front seat and put it in the thing? Imagine if I came out and was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah. Oh, they gave me a lollipop and some other goodies.
I don't feel
powdered
so
sugar?
good. Yeah, that's got to win.
Meth deposit continues as our What Is Wrong With You champion. I'm going to go. I got to head out to Seaman. I've got to go.
You'll get there.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll get to Seaman High School for some high school
Hey,
basketball.
now you can get there an even easier way.
And I'll clean up my grammar by the time that I get there. As I'll bring you high school basketball between Seaman and Lansing. Myself and Larry Latimer on the call. In the meantime, coming up next, Brendan chats with Michael Swain of Fog.net here on 580 Sports Talk.
was hoping that was vodka.
Dollar signs. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
What a scene in Lawrence, Kansas tonight.
Joining us as we enter the bottom of this 4 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk, as he does every Tuesday at this time, is Michael Swain, who covers all things Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. If you are not a VIP over at 24/7 Sports, then my friends, you are missing out. It is the best way to get all the inside scoops into what is going on with KU athletics. Michael, good to hear from you today, buddy. This weekend, how good was it to see Darren Peterson back out there? Not even just from a, hey, cool for KU fans perspective, but from a, wow, this is much more watchable basketball perspective.
Yes, it was much more, it was much easier on the eye. And even then, like the first, 10 minutes of that game, you know, they weren't super easy on the eyes, even with Darren Peterson back out there. But it's just one of those where, I don't know, man, every time he steps out there, you just see how talented and how incredibly special he is. Like, I don't know how you felt, but watching him on Sunday, I felt like he was someone that was on cruise control. Like, there wasn't a ton of times where I'm like, oh, Darren is going. Like, he is pushing himself hard right now. It felt very much like a guy kind of feeling his way back into things. And the fact that, 17 points in 23 minutes, and you can say, yeah, did he really ever get out of third gear? The fact that you could say that about him just shows how good he is. And it's one of those where you can see what he will unlock for the rest of this team that has developed in his absence. But you can see what he's going to unlock for this team over the next few weeks as he kind of gets more acclimated to playing with these guys, and they get, again, more acclimated playing with him. Because, look, it's one of those deals where, okay, he's been practicing, but like game reps are different than practice reps, and he doesn't have a lot of game reps with these guys yet. So I really think kind of the next couple weeks can be really important, even if the games are going to be a little stinky.
And you mentioned it there. That was the point I was going to bring up too, is like, yeah, he's still working his way back. He's still getting game reps. We heard that he was on a minutes restriction and he blew through a lot of it in the first half. But by the same token, mentioning that he was kind of on cruise control throughout the game, that's just an example of what kind of player he is, right? Like Mizzou right now, I don't know what they were before the game on Sunday. Ken Palm's got them with the number 85 defense in the country. Not awful. I mean, it's not Mississippi Valley State, but it's also not, a good unit necessarily. And he went out there and did his thing and didn't have to go full, for lack of a better term, balls to the wall. That's kind of what we expect from him against the defense of that caliber, right?
I think so. And look, I mean, you can look up and down the Big 12, especially with the way the schedule is going to be this year, where you're going to play a lot of teams once. You're going to play a fair few defenses that are kind of in that range. And you're going to need Darren to have good offensive games, because I think while KU's defense is going to be very consistent, like I think it's going to be a top 5 defense, pretty much most of Big 12 play, if not most of the rest of the season. Like that's the level I think KU has. It's going to be a question of offensively, what sort of firepower can you get? And if Darren can, put together a performance like that, like he did against Missouri, when you're going to play other defenses like that in the Big 12, I think that's the encouraging part. And you can look at what Darren did. There was a lot of settling for threes, right? There was the great turnaround jumper that he had in the paint, and then he also had the one rim drive. But I think you'll see him get more downhill as he gets more comfortable pushing off on the hamstring, and as he kind of just builds confidence and builds some of that game fitness and sharpness. And the fact that, he can provide that 3-point scoring for KU that I think at times has been super ugly. I think that's just another added benefit. And there are going to be games where, teams are going to have a good scouting report on what KU's going to try and do, and you're going to need Darren to knock down jump shots. And then there are going to be other games where maybe he gets to run off the line a little bit more, and teams are really going to say, you know what, we're not going to get beat by the 3, by Darren. And then those are the games where he's going to need to drive it. And I think just the fact that he's a guy that can do so much for you is one of those things that, again, just makes him so special. And I think is why, KU built the team it has around Darren, is the fact that he can do so much and can kind of answer whatever question is kind of posed on a given night.
Michael Swain is our guest, covers the Kansas Jayhawks over at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Outside of Darren Peterson, as this KU team has weathered the storm pretty well, all things considered, now through 10 games, 7-3, a couple more non-con games coming up. We'll get to NC State here in a moment. But outside of Peterson, who has been the most pleasant surprise to you on this roster so far?
So two guys come to mind. I think Jamari McDowell's one because
Where the hell has this come from?
like if you
just
told
out
me,
of
over
nowhere.
the summer that he's going to be K's kind of seventh man, I would have said, well, that's a terrible development. But he's really come along. But I mean, it's got to be Trey White, right? This is not, it's one of these situations where you see a player at Illinois and you're like, okay, this is a specific role he can play, and you don't really want him doing too much more than what he was last year at Illinois, right? Off-ball cutting, not an initiator, not a guy who you're relying on for consistent offense. But hey, he's going to have a couple games where he scores 20 points, but he's going to have some games where he scores 4. I think Trey White turning into what he's been here as a senior for KU to start the season has been tremendous. And we can go so many different ways, right? He was such a great guy getting the free throw line at Illinois, right? You look at his free throw rate, that was elite last year at Illinois. That's continued. But I think what is so different this year about it is he's doing it with the ball in his hand. And he's doing it himself, where he's got kind of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander move down where he just draws contact and the defender can't do anything about it. And it's a foul. And with continuation coming into play now in college, like, he's done a great job of taking advantage of that rule change. And then, of course, you can look at the 3-point percentage and talk about the fact that he's probably KU's second best shooter. And again, that's another thing where if you said Trey White is going to have, be kind of KU's second most consistent shooter going into the year, you're probably like, oh boy, that's not good. But the way he shot it and the confidence he shot it with, is he going to shoot 40% all year? No. Like, I think by the end of the year, he probably settles about 35%. But that's still a huge improvement over what he was last year. And you would take that going into the year. So I just think top to bottom, you can't be more impressed with him. He's done all the things you expected he would do, but then he's also added elements to his game that you just didn't know he was going to be able to bring. And that's such a huge positive for this KU team.
Not to be too much of a downer, flip side question, though, who's been the biggest disappointment so far? I mean, the guy that and disappointment is harsh. And I'm not, I don't want to make it sound like a personal thing, but just who has not lived up to the expectations, or at least when you hear, okay, who hasn't stepped up to them, what's the name that comes to your mind first?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those where at what point in time are we talking expectations? Are we talking in the springtime when kind of everything's all rosy and stuff? I'd say Jaden Dawson. If we're talking about right before the season starts, I'd say Cole Rosario. It's one of those where going into the season, you thought Jaden Dawson would kind of be what Jamari McDowell is right now. A guy that he's shooting off the bench, some athleticism, is not really going to do a whole lot in terms of creating for others, or isn't going to be a number one defender, but can do just enough well to help you out to make him play so that the 3-point shooting can kind of be out there. Man, he's not really provided that. He's gotten lost defensively. I don't think he's provided as much on the glass or has done too much outside of shooting to help KU. And then I think you say the same thing about Cole Rosario. You can go back to Big 12 Media Day and listen to Bill Self talk about Cole and the scoring that KU needed from him. And it's come at points, but it's been super efficient, right? Inefficient. It's been 2 of 9 shooting, 3 of 7. It's games like that you're like, man, like, okay, he's getting you the points, but are they the efficient points you need for an offense like KU that is going to labor at times? So I think those are the two that definitely come to mind, and it's going to make for a really interesting next couple of games to see if either one of those guys can kind of start to break through.
A couple more questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. If you're not a VIP at Fog.net, go be one now. Worth it. All the best insight into what's going on with KU can be found over at Fog.net. Coming up on Saturday, Michael, next time KU is in action, it's against NC State. Checking out the KenPom numbers. Similar just in terms of production this season, in terms of pretty good offense. NC State's even better than Missouri's. Very similar defensive numbers so far. I think even beyond that, this is a much better NC State team than it is a Missouri team. What are you expecting from KU? What is KU going to need to do to knock off the Wolfpack this weekend?
Yeah, it's one of those where, I mean, first and foremost, I'm really interested to see how Darren Peterson kind of does again, as he kind of develops here, getting used to playing with guys. But, I think it's one of those games where, NC State's offense, like, KU theoretically should be able to stop it. I'm more interested to see how KU does in its own right offensively. Just because of the fact that there have been games where they really go through ruts. And in a road game like this, how are you going to be able to perform? Because it's one of those where, KU played at Carolina, but has lacked kind of a true road environment since. So how much progression has there been for KU offensively? When you have a negative run, right? The other team's got some momentum. How are you able to respond to that stuff? It's funny, you look at the numbers and it's like, okay, they're kind of predicting, a close game. I look at it and say, man, can NC State score with KU against KU's defense? And I'm like, I'm not sure, man. Darian Williams hasn't been the guy maybe you thought he'd be. You can look at, Lubin, the center they have, like he's the right size for someone like Floyd, probably a little bit thicker than you'd like to see, but he's not a 7-footer, right? I think 6'9", 6'10". Like, I think KU matches up well in this game. And it's one of those where KU kind of plays its game that it's played recently. It's a game they should win, but it's one of those where if all of a sudden you guys are settling for threes and there's not a lot of ball movement offensively, I think KU could run into some issues. And that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Quick pivot to football here before we let you go, Michael. KU was reportedly one of the teams that declined a bowl invitation as a 5-7 team. Most did until they got way down the list to Appalachian State, who's now going to play, I believe it's against Georgia Southern in a bowl game. I'm frustrated by it because I think of all programs, KU should not be passing up on extra weeks of practice. By the same token, I do understand you miss a bowl. Everybody's expecting the year is over. Guys are leaving. Classes are ending. Some guys are hitting the portal. They're done with all this, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you land on this matter for KU in particular, deciding not to take a bowl bid this year?
Yeah, it's one of those where, when you see the reports coming out of, okay, they're getting down the list. KU's kind of on the clock, so to speak. My first reaction was, man, they got to take this opportunity. You're getting gifted bowl practices when you're going to have a starting quarterback battle going into next year. And then you think about it logistically, and there's a reason why teams are passing up the opportunity. Because most people thought their season was over, right? Iowa State and K-State passing on bowls, and Notre Dame to some degree, has kind of reshifted the list where then all of a sudden they needed one more. So, KU thought the season was over, and players are starting to go home. And I don't think that would have gone over well if all of a sudden guys are at the airport or already home and they get a text of, hey, we're going to a bowl game. You got to get your butt back to campus. Like, I don't think you're going to get very good bowl practices if that's what you're pulling with your student athletes. I don't think that would have been a very good environment, right, for the next couple of weeks. So it's one of those where from the outside, yeah, it's easy to say, man, KU should have taken the opportunity. KU definitely should have played. But then you start weighing the player element, right? The cost element. KU would have lost money going to this bowl game. It's just one of those where you look at it and it's like, yeah, when you start looking at reasons, it makes a little more sense why KU declined.
Michael Swain, he's the voice of reason, and he's the best at what he does when it comes to covering the Kansas Jayhawks. Go find his work at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Michael, as always, my friend, we appreciate the time. Thanks for dropping by, and enjoy the game against NC State coming up this weekend.
Thanks, man. Sounds good. Talk to you guys next week.
That is the great Michael Swain. We're going to get to a timeout. We'll come on back on the other side of this break, wrap up the 4 o'clock hour. It's just me in studio right now. We've got one segment left. We got to get to some random question Tuesday before we're out of here today. Best questions either on YouTube or the text line we'll get to before the hour is done. Send them in during the break. We'll get to them right after these commercials here on 580 Sports Talk. Last 2 minutes of this 4 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Don't forget, we're done a little bit early today because we've got 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops. It's a good one in the United Kansas Conference tonight. Seaman versus Lansing doubleheader. We'll get you out there somewhere in the neighborhood of 5:20 here on 580 WIBW. Quick round of Random Question Tuesday. Some questions from you folks in the YouTube comments and on the text line, 785-272-9429. From Jeffrey on YouTube, have I decided what song I'm going to sing when we get to 900 subscribers on the YouTube Do Karaoke? I don't know the rules here because I'm not in the studio quite as often these days for, circumstances out of my control. And I don't know if Dan and Spencer have agreed to how we're going to do this. Are we picking who does what song? Are we drawing out of a hat? How are we going to somehow rig it so Dan has to do My Maria? I'm not exactly sure how we're going to make this all work, but the guys will inform me. So no, I have not picked one yet. My singing sucks. It's bad. So whatever it ends up being, it's going to be rough. Mark B asks on the YouTube feed, am I ready for Christmas with my kid? Sort of. So her birthday was this weekend. She turned 1 year old on Saturday. So we just went through one gift giving and celebrating occasion. We've got the tree up. We've got some Christmas decorations up. I still have to put our lights up outside. I'm super behind on that. So we're getting there. I got a lot of thoughts about commercialization. I feel very Charlie Brown at this time of year. I got some real thoughts on the over-commercialization of Christmas, but I am excited to, do the stories and open presents, and she loves unwrapping. I can say that. Mark also adds, at this age, more likely to like the box than what's in it. My kid does love unwrapping presents. She'll just rip a little strip off, hand it to me very proudly, do another little rip, hand it to me very proudly. So that's fun. Excited to do that on Christmas morning. Appreciate the quick round of Random Question Tuesday. Let's get to a break. We'll come on back, wrap up the show with a final word and a busy day of 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll wrap things up right after the news here on 580 WIBW. Hey now, final hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski here with you, and we won't even have close to a full final hour of 580 Sports Talk today. JV is moving at a brisk pace out at the 580 Preps High School basketball game of the week. Tuesday night hoops for us tonight as Seaman gets ready to take on Lansing. It'll be the girls first, the boys to follow. As soon as we are ready, we are going to send it over to Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer, for tonight's edition of the Tuesday Night Hoops. Should be a fun one in the UKC. And we'll have all the action for you. Doubleheader right here on 580 WIBW. Let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines for us here today. We've got plenty to get to and a pretty short time to get there. So let's just rifle through those right now. Our biggest headline of the day from the NFL. This is hysterical, in my opinion. Phillip Rivers, it is official. He is coming out of retirement one day after turning 44 years old. He is a grandfather, and he has signed with the Indianapolis Colts practice squad. There are a number of reasons why I find this to be funny. Now, it's not funny that a bunch of guys got injured, and that's why he has to play. That part is not very funny. What is funny, though, is that the best option available is a guy who literally has not played in 5 years. He has not played in a long enough period of time that he's eligible for Hall of Fame induction this year. He's a semifinalist to make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But if he at any point is signed to the Colts active roster, that resets his clock. I'm serious. So it would be another 5 years if he gets in a game. 5 years before he could again be eligible for the Hall of Fame. I don't know if that's going to help his case or hurt it. I have no idea. I do find that hysterical. The other funny thing, well, one, he's also not the only grandpa who's ever played in the NFL. I haven't seen Y.A. Tittle's name come up when I've looked into this, but I would assume he was a grandfather. He played till he was almost 50. But he's a grandfather, which is very funny. They've got to play two really, really, really good defenses. That's very funny. It's just an incredible situation. And honestly, at this point, especially given the fact that the Chiefs are not, in all likelihood, going to make it to the postseason this year, I'm rooting for the Colts to get there. I would love to see Phillip Rivers somehow find a way to navigate through the sludge heap that is the wild card race in the in the AFC and make it to the postseason. I am 1,000% rooting for that at this point. Just as a fan of football and of cool stories and of narratives, I would love to see that happen. I know if you're a Chiefs fan, most of your favorite memories of Phillip Rivers are the Chargers failing and him never really winning anything of any real consequence. And just like, haha, you're a whiny baby and you spell Phillip with one L and we beat you all the time. Like, that is probably your favorite memory of Phillip Rivers if you're a Chiefs fan. I don't have the same kind of disdain. I do laugh at the fact that he never really won anything of consequence. The other funniest part about all of this is that over the summer, he signed a one-day contract with the Los Angeles Chargers to retire as a member of that organization. And now he's coming back for a different organization. Very, very funny. It's probably not going to work out in all likelihood. He's 44 years old, hasn't played in 5 years. They have to play before the season is done. The Colts, and I got to pull this up to make sure I get all of them right in the correct order. Their final 4 games: at the Seattle Seahawks, elite defense. Home for the 49ers, okay defense. Home for the Jaguars, okay defense, but really good edge rusher in Josh Hines-Allen. And then the final week of the year, when their season might be on the line, they have to play the Houston Texans, who have the best pair of edge rushers in the NFL, in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Good luck if you're Phillip Rivers. I had a question here from the 785 on the text line. Does that mean that Jason Bean is getting the start this week for the Colts? It's unknown at this point who is going to start for the Indianapolis Colts. Is Bean still on the practice squad? I don't know if he still is, to be completely honest with you. I'll have to look into that. But he it's either going to be, no, I don't believe he is. No, he's not on the practice squad. So it's going to either be Phillip Rivers or Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard, the rookie out of Notre Dame who got banged up this week. He's week to week with a knee injury. He might not be able to go. If he can't go, sounds like it's going to be Phillip Rivers. And that is going to be insane. Truly, truly insane. But hey, that's sports. That's the NFL. That's your big NFL headline from earlier today. Next headline we'll get to here on a shortened final hour of 580 Sports Talk. This from college sports. And I hate this. I really do. I do not think this is going to end well. We have talked a number of times on this program in this segment about the Big Ten. Well, we talked about it with the Big 12 first. If you remember, going back several months now, stories about, the Big 12 is talking to Redbird Capital and Silver Lake Capital about maybe a private equity agreement that's going to infuse some cash into the league. And it was very unpopular. And the Big 12 eventually said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to hold off on this. Now, in recent months, it's been the Big Ten talking about it. And a majority of that conference is in favor of it. But a few programs, notably Michigan and USC, are on the other side of it and saying, no, we do not want this. This is not a good thing. This is not good for our institutions, and are trying to keep the Big Ten from doing such a thing and getting a private equity investment. Enter the University of Utah, which has agreed to a nearly $500 million private equity agreement. This is the writing of Carter Bonds over at CBS Sports. The University of Utah is finalizing a landmark private equity partnership that would be the first of its kind in college athletics. Utah is set to enter an agreement with the New York-based firm Atro Capital that will help generate an estimated $500 million for the school. It's expected to be finalized early 2026. Utah has received clearance from the NCAA to enter this partnership. There are still certain stipulations it needs to remain an NCAA member. Notably, University President Taylor Randall and AD Mark Harlan must retain majority decision-making control. So with this, a new for-profit entity known as Utah Brands and Entertainment LLC will exist as an independent offshoot of the athletic department, co-owned by the university and this capital firm. They will be the majority owner and will have some decision-making authority, including on the university will have the decision-making on schedules and other coaching factors and matters, while Atro Capital will get a percentage of the company's annual revenue. There is an exit strategy 5 to 7 years down the line, and the university does have the right to purchase Atro Capital's ownership stake. There is, when I was a freshman in college, let me put it this way. I remember in my communications class, Com 130, everybody at KU had to take it. At least all the journalism kids did. I think everyone, though, had to take it. And we learned about all the logical fallacies, and one of them being the slippery slope, that just because you say, oh, man, well, if we do this, then something worse will happen, and something worse will happen, it's a slippery slope, that's not necessarily rooted in any logic. That fallacy does not apply here because we have tons of examples of major private equity investments not turning into positive things down the line and allowing the menace, the monster, the whatever, the specter, the beast into the house was going to come eventually. But it is my opinion, and that's all this is, my opinion, basis of sports talk, as you know. This is not going to go over well for college sports because at some point, the bill comes due. A private equity investment is not a true donation. As I mentioned there in the breakdown from CBS Sports, part of this agreement is the revenue that comes in to the University of Utah Athletic Department is going to go back to this capital firm that is infusing a bunch of capital. They are working as well, another note of this, with their donors to try to get them essentially to buy in and be investors in the program and not just donors. Here's the thing about that. Eventually, the bill comes due. Eventually, they want their money. They want to make sure that they've got the revenue that they expected. They've got to make sure that, oh, yeah, that money we were promised, that money we were expecting, we want it. It needs to be in our hands. Figure it out, or we will figure out a way to make sure this happens. And you can say that Mark Harlan and you can say that the Taylor Russell, the university president, they maintain the overall decision making. But let's be real about this. If the folks who are bringing in all the money say, hey, look, we want this to happen, your money depends on us, we're going to figure this out, what generally happens? You listen to the people with the money. That's not just a sports thing. That's a business world thing. That's open up the business section of the newspaper and read about it in Alden Global with newspapers or various different restaurant chains. I was just reading a story the other day about Panera and how they're kind of revitalizing their brand after their private equity investment said, we're going to have worse customer service and worse ingredients in our food intentionally. And then they lost a bunch of money and said, hey, wait a minute, why did this happen? Like, this is a very dangerous place to go, in my opinion, for college sports. Mark B on YouTube says, you do not want that camel's nose under your tent. No, I agree completely with this, because again, at some point they are going to, if they don't get what they want out of this, the people injecting the capital into it, they're going to say, how are you going to get me my money? How are you going to get me the revenue that I was promised? That could be, maybe things are great and hunky-dory and rosy, and Utah makes this work for at least 5 to 7 years. Maybe things go poorly, and all of a sudden the Utah gymnastics program is in trouble. Track and field program's in trouble. Things like that. I think this is very dangerous. It might sound like, oh, who cares? I think this is a big deal, and I think a lot of people should care about where this is going when it comes to college sports. Mark also asks, how does this affect the Big 12's autonomy on its members? For now, I don't think there's any change. And I would imagine there will be rules written in or at, some sort of meeting of commissioners and of everybody. Like, hey, look, it needs to be written in the rule. If you take a private equity investment, you need to have what the Utah situation is here, where university president, chancellor, whatever, and AD are the final decision makers. I would assume that would be written into future contracts for other schools as well, probably in contracts with the Big 12 as well. But it's a whole new world. This, to me, is more Wild West than a lot of things that have been accused of being the college sports Wild West in recent years. Barb here on YouTube agrees with me as well. Good to see you, Barbara. Good to see you. Yeah, that equity group is in it for the profit, and when the money comes in, they want their cut first. Yep, absolutely. It's a dangerous game, but we're there in college athletics, and somebody had to be first. Fortunately for the Big 12, again, in my opinion, it's the Utah Utes. A couple other quick headlines from the real quick. Vance also mentions I could see bankruptcies coming from this, or maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't think there's any overthinking it. This is brand new. And again, look at other industries where this has happened. I'm not trying to be, Adam Smith here, well, kind of on the opposite side of what Adam Smith would believe, or like some sort of economist. I'm not able to do that. I do not have that skill set. I went to school to talk on the radio and write about sports. I didn't go to it to study the economy, okay? So I can't give you all the very specifics of it. But I can tell you, just being an American citizen in the last 15 years, I have seen, just like you have, a lot of businesses that have been through things like this, and it has not ended well for them. Red Lobster has become like a super success story in American business, how they're turning things around after all of this happened to their company. So we'll see. That's the best I can do for you, but I am very worried about where college athletics is going now that they have let that particular beast into the house. Really quickly, I wanted to get to a couple pieces of news from the hot stove in a big league baseball. Kyle Schwarber is headed back to the Philadelphia Phillies. 5 years, $150 million. That's a story. The story of all of this, in my opinion, and it's predictable and just so gross at the same time, is that the Cincinnati Reds, his hometown team, offered him a smaller contract. I think it was around 4 years, $100 million. The Pirates offered him something similar. And in reporting after this deal was signed by Schwarber today, it came out, I believe this was from Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, the Reds were never intending to go anywhere close to what they knew he would get from the Phillies. The only reason they were pursuing him at all was because they figured it was going to lead to increased ticket sales. That's the only reason they had any interest. Not to improve the team, nothing like that, just so it would seem like they were trying to improve ticket sales. That's all. It's gross. I don't like it whatsoever, but that's how a whole lot of teams run their business in Major League Baseball these days. Also from the hot stove today, Edwin Diaz, the star reliever, he is going to the Los Angeles Dodgers for a new record average annual value for a relief pitcher. The former Mets closer got 3 years, $69 million to be the new closer, or at least back-end arm for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've said this before, and I really do believe it. I understand if you are PO'd at the Dodgers because they have all this talent and yada, yada. I understand that. This is what Major League Baseball has created. It's not the Dodgers' fault that they're the only team willing to do this, because lots of teams have money. Lots of franchises should be interested or willing to do this. The Cubs, the Yankees, the Red Sox, lots of them. And that's barely scraping the surface. Only one team does. The Blue Jays do. That was such a funny thing about the World Series this year. Oh, the Dodgers, they spend all this money. I want the Blue Jays to win. The Blue Jays were 5th in payroll. They also spent a ton of money. They gave Vlad Jr. more money than you could ever imagine this past offseason. So, or during the season, whenever he ended up signing that deal. So there's just very few teams that do it. I have a hard time getting mad at the Dodgers for just doing what the system of Major League Baseball has set up and allowed for them to do here in the current stages of the existence of the MLB. And that isn't, again, another reason why I am just assuming we're not going to have baseball in 2027. I'm expecting a work stoppage, but sincerely, I hope I'm wrong about that. All right, real quick, before we get out of here and send you off to Tuesday Night Hoops, let's get to a quick edition of our 580 Sports Talk Final Word. Wrapping things up with a quick final word here on 580 Sports Talk for today. And I will follow up on something Dan was talking about a little bit earlier this afternoon. The Chiefs offseason. It is so easy to do this when you are looking back, you're reflecting on what happened. You've got the benefit of hindsight. I understand that. But when you look at the pieces the Chiefs brought in, and you look now at what the Chiefs have needed, what the Chiefs have been lacking, what would have helped this team get closer to another Super Bowl run, as opposed to barely, narrowly, by the skin of their teeth, even hanging on to playoff hopes at this point, you just point to that offseason. Look at the players they brought in. I'm not even talking about the draft necessarily. Josh Simmons has been a win. Really like what we saw of Ashton Gelati this week. He can be a useful player. I'm not even necessarily talking about those guys. Although, why did you draft a running back when you really needed one for a guy you're not even going to use a whole lot? That's a whole other thing. Look at the free agents. All your wide receivers continue to be the same guy. You get the same kind of linemen, the same kind of ball carriers, the same kind of pass catchers. It's all the same thing over and over. It's so redundant. It is so stale. And that's the thing that I think the Chiefs need to do going forward. Long-term thinking here, long-term projecting here, if they want to get back to a place where they are contending for AFC championships, where they are contending for Super Bowls. I do think they will get there, but it is going to take a shakeup in terms of what they want to be, what they want this team to look like in the long term, what they want this team to look like overall. It cannot be a bunch of diminutive, speedy wide receivers when you need some guys who can just go up and get it or body a cornerback. The Chiefs don't have guys like that. The corners are always the same kind of player. The defensive ends are always the same kind of player to an agonizing degree. This team needs a shakeup, not necessarily in terms of the people making the decisions, but in terms of what decisions those guys actually are making regarding this team's player personnel. That is going to do it here for 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, we are going to send you out to Viking Gymnasium, where we've got 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops, the Seaman Vikings taking on the Lansing Lions in a United Kansas Conference matchup. Our Dan Lucero will be on the call with Larry Latimer coming up here in just a few moments. Don't forget to check out the podcast on Spotify. Open up the app on your phone, your desktop, wherever. Search 580 Sports Talk. That's where you can find the show broken down hour by hour. Also on our website, 580wibw.com. And if you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's get to a commercial break. We'll head out, send you to Viking Gymnasium for Tuesday Night Hoops. Until next time, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.